of everything.
Cool. My name is Dawuud. This is an article I wrote under Mizan, which is a clothing brand. But what we do with Mizan is we're trying to communicate ideas through our clothing. And sometimes I do write articles, and we also have like video campaigns surrounding various topics. I released this video yesterday, this article yesterday. It got published, and I thought I would like to share it with the wider audience. The link to the article will be in the description, and I hope that I can have some positive feedback, some critique as well is welcomed also. And with further ado, let me start the article. So the article is called "The Blind Leading the Blind." This is an attempt to write a motivational piece. For many, it might be surprising that the article has a critical tone. As it is with Mizan, truth or beauty predicates upon attaining authenticity. This, of course, is a lifelong mission. The answer you may be looking for is ironically in the title. Blind leading the blind is a famous idiom widely used across the globe and ages. We will look briefly at the text that contains those sayings, but rely on Peter Bruegger's eldest painting, The Blind Leading the Blind, for guiding this article. The origin of the idiom, the blind leading the blind, are found in the Vedas, Buddhist Pali Canon, Canon, and Bible, and even in the words of Roman poet Horace. Roman philosopher Sextus Empiricus has his own irritation of it. Quote, "Nor does the non-expert teach the non-expert any more than the blind can lead the blind," unquote. However, the quote that illustrates the painting in question the best is the passage from the Bible ascribed to Jesus. The passage says, quote, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has planted will be pulled up by the roots. Leave them, they are blind guides of the blind. If a blind man leads the blind, both will fall into the pit," unquote. Matthew 15, chapter 15, verse 14. So, just quickly to give a bit of a feedback what this article is about. I'm basically trying to describe a painting by Peter Bruegel, who was a Renaissance painter from Holland. And he has taken the inspiration from the Bible to paint this painting. It is a painting of 5 men. All of them are beggars, all of them are blind. And the guy who's leading the group, because they're all holding each other on a stick, so that's how it looks. And the leader of the group is leading the group into the pits, into a trench, because he's blind, okay? So if you want to see the painting, just Google Peter Bruegel the Elder, and you see the painting. Yeah. Let's go back to the article. So the statement alone needs analyzing in potentially an independent article. The power and energy contained in that verse is why Bruegel's painting exerts such an influence upon us till this day. The relevancy of this painting is striking. Maybe today more than ever can we look at the painting and say, this picture describes our times. Leaders are elected for having the most radical views. Continents are being split, borders shutting down, and dead bodies washing ashore. Public pledges taken order to entice, only to break those pledges and promises. Wisdom, a concept of the past. The language of hype has found sympathy with spiritual leaders. The Dalai Lama's recent statements regarding the refugee crisis mirrors that. He said in an interview, quote, "Receive the migrants, help them, educate them, but ultimately they should develop their own country. I think Europe belongs to Europeans," unquote. The spiritual leader made further remarks by saying, quote, "A limited number is okay, but then whole of Europe will eventually become Muslim country. Impossible. Or African country. Also impossible," end quote. Again, going through all the statements would need an entire article. However, just briefly, the idea that Islam belongs to a geographical area is ridiculous. factually, historically, or spiritually. Just plain wrong. A false equivalence is drawn by comparing Islam, a religion, and Africa as a continent. The generalization is just adding to the confusion. Secondly, Europe has countries where Islam is as indigenous as Christianity. Bosnia and Kosovo, to name few. People in position of power without the power of knowledge. In the name of progress, they say, frequent excuses like, he's the best option we have, or in the 50s we used to, is the new normal. Sophistry of the highest order. Nepotism is as old as the pyramids. That's not the point. We live in a time where potential for greatness can occur. Only if the right people take lead. It must be said frankly that those people can't wait until they're given opportunities. They must seize them. We live in times that require those measures, even if it means calling our people, etc. Remain strategic, of course. We have observed this trend on social media, mass media by extension, and politics. The countless articles about the harms social media is having on people. Mental health are numerous. The effects of produce a faux image, but influences are countless. The latest neologism, fake news given to us by social media. The ever-smiling faces, never-worrying personas, get-rich-quick schemes, digital scholars, altruistic proclaimers, and the tummy tea that promises a deflated stomach, etc. All of them are advising and suggesting, usually by people who have vacuums to avoid empty pockets in their corners of their souls, filled with illusion of grandeur. They are the ones who need help, but compound ignorance has grown its roots deep. Bruegel's description of the scene in the picture follows. The 5 men have several commonalities. Few stand out. They are all beggars. They are all blind, and they are all holding a shared walking stick. The first 2 are realizing that their jaywalking has consequences that are about to be paid. The third beggar is holding on to the stick with confidence, not realizing what is to befall him. Therefore, his head held up high instead of downwards looking into the ditch, totally unaware. The fourth beggar has given consent, but is so confused that he just follows anyway. The other 2 joining last are neophytes, building trust, but the path's downwards pulling power at this point is too strong. They can't escape falling into the ditch, a process inevitably resulting to the devastating demise of the blinds. At the beginning of the article, it claims to have motivational aspect. This is the part where you pay attention. The parable is not a gloom and doom prophecy, especially if you've read so far into the article. The idea is that if you remain authentic, the likelihood of being led into shenanigans decreases. Since authenticity sometimes is built up on principles, being yourself also means knowing your own limits. So if you're blind, figuratively speaking, you make sure that those who have insight are protected at all costs. This means support the people that have invested time and energy in the trades that are preoccupied by pretenders and imposters, or strive for mastery yourself. Therefore, if we are all blind beggars, in the metaphorical sense, we cannot afford not to choose. In other words, we must make our choices wisely, who we support, follow, or become. Thank you very much if you've listened to the entire video. And just to sum up this article, guys, I see, I'm not someone who usually speaks a lot. I know most of the people here, but I don't like being in front of the camera. So where I reside on social media is usually in the comment section. I read what you guys write. But let me tell you something. The power really is not with those people that you watch every single Sunday. It's not with them. You give them power by praising them, by insulting them, by belittling them, by befriending them. You give them power. The power is with you. So you need to understand who you're giving power to. It's enough, man. We have given power to people all the time who do not deserve it. Stop making stupid people famous, man. We need people with insight. We're just about to have a freaking war against someone in Iran because John Bolton and the rest of them and God knows who is pushing war. They're all pushing for hype. Come off that hype. Come off that hype juice. You know when war is, when war comes, watch in every single country, we become refugees, we run away. It's a little amount of people who fight, man. We live in a time where we can't have coexistence, we can have conversations. The internet has opened possibilities to that. But what we're doing is we're doing populism in politics, we're doing populism on social media. Hype. Just now, a minute ago, an hour ago, there was a fight here. People fighting. You know, they're running around like dogs fighting, but nothing was happening, bro. And I'm sure there was human emotions, and I'm sure there was justifications for that. But what I'm saying is, let's realize in what century we're in, man. We're in a century where countries have nuclear weapons. This is not bows and arrows anymore. Do you understand? When the bomb drums, everything goes away. So let's have conversations, as difficult as they are. The more conversations we have, the more we learn from each other. This is really the message I'm trying to give you guys. You are giving powers to those people on the internet. Take the power away. Listen to those who take consent. Listen to a person that's making you feel great about yourself, about being a human, who makes you more humane. We have all these inhumane acts everywhere. And it reflects, no wonder why people vote for people like Trump. Because we create rubbish culture. The culture that we produce is rubbish. Therefore, people go and vote rubbish. And no disrespect for those people who have, again, justification for why they vote to Brexit or why they vote for Trump. This is not to you. I'm talking to those people who are, the opium of the masses is not religion anymore. It's hype. It's hype. And we need to end that. Thank you very much again for listening. If I have offended anyone with what I said, I do apologize. That's not what I'm trying to say, because all I'm doing is I'm trying to uplift everyone. Let's be a bit more humane, man. We're humans. We're like the highest creatures on this earth. Let's behave like that. Thank you very much.
Come take over everything from your man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
We are the authors of humanity.
Listen.
Nobody got on this planet, no man got on this planet without coming through a woman. And I'm calling all the strong women to come and represent, you know, women and women's rights. Now, unfortunately, there's been a little bit of kerfuffle over the last couple of weeks, and